Hello guys, and welcome back to the series on how to build a blog with Laravel. In this video, we'll start planning our application and we will create our very first module as well as database table. In a previous video, I showed you how to create a brand new Laravel project and set up the dev environment. So if you haven't seen it, I will leave the link in the description down below. Now, before we write any code, let's begin with a bit of brainstorming. I will create a new file and call it brainstorming.txt. If we think about it, what's the general purpose of this application? Let's write it out and see if we can spot any important keywords. So we want to build a site that allows viewing, creating, updating, and deleting blog posts. So the keyword here is post. So let's think how the post might look like. So the post might have an image, it should have a title as well as the content. So we'll call it text. The post will be written by some kind of user. So we can name it author ID, and it should have a date it was created and date it was updated at. So this column will actually point to another database table called users. Let's think how a user might look like. So user. So a user will have a name, an email, and a password. So for now it looks good enough. We can now actually start writing some code. So let's go to the terminal and start the dev environment. We start the environment using this command, and we got to make sure the Docker is running in the background before running this command. So now we can list the running containers using docker ps command. Because we are using the PHP environment from inside the container, we actually need to run all the commands from the container. We have to connect this PHP container, and we can do this using docker exec command. Now, as we can see, we are inside the container, and it mimics our file structure that we have right here. And now we can run the artisan command to create the post model as well as migration. So php artisan make model post with migration. So as we can see, the model and migration was created. So if we look to the database migrations folder, we can see that Laravel has created a bunch of migrations for us, along with our post migration. So let's change the schema so it looks similar to the one we wrote here. So I will add a comment here. Just for the reference. So for now, let's ignore this column. And let's ignore the image column. So let's create a title column. And let's create a text column and make it a text. And the timestamps method will create these two columns for us by default. So we actually can delete this. So now we can go to our terminal and run the migrations. As you can see, we get an error. So we have a MySQL container running in the background, but our Laravel application is not connected to it. So if you go to .env file, let's change some variables. So let's change database host to MySQL and database name to default, username to root, and password to root as well. And if you go to docker compose file, we set these variables, so we have to set them as well in the environment file. So now that we changed the credentials, let's try running the migrations again. Success. So the tables have been created and we can see them by opening the SQL Pro. And let's connect to the database that we have created. Username will be default and password will be secret. That's connection, and we can add to the favorites and connect. So if we go to the default database, we can see that running migrations has created a few tables. So here's our post table, as well as users, password resets, and migrations, which were created because of these migration files. So if we look at the table structure, we can see that we have a title, text, and the timestamps. So currently the table is empty. It would be nice if the tables were not empty and we have some data to work with. So luckily Laravel provides factories which will generate the data for us. So we can make a post factory. If you go to the terminal, let's close the windows. Again, from inside the container, let's run a artisan command to make a factory, and let's call it post factory. Let's open it up. So as you can see, we will be creating a data for post model, and we have to define the structure of the data. So that post will have a title, and a text. So as you can see, we are using a faker property which has access to the faker PHP library and allows generating various kinds of random data. So here we're using the sentence method and passing free. So basically this will generate a random sentence from 3 words. And the text will generate a random blob of text. So now we can run this factory method by opening the terminal, opening up the PHP Artisan Tinker. So let's use the app models post class, and let's run the factory method on the post model. And let's create 5 posts. Times 5 will do this. And create. So if we look at the table again, we can see 5 new records. So we are making a great progress. Let's continue in the next video.